again, thank you so very much. I'm Tim Miner, the chair of the National Program Committee, and this is our monthly webinar for America's Walking Club across the nation. Behind me sits the National Board Secretary. So we do have at least one of the national officers. We have others on board. You're all welcome to please turn on your cameras if you'd like to, so we can get a shot of everybody that's on board. Otherwise, thank you so much for being with us. So, you're welcome to, at any time, unmute your mic, ask a question. You're welcome to enjoy your beverage of choice. We are adults here and all looking forward to socializing together. Consider this an opportunity for us to talk about things that are important, because we do have national officers. I'm one of the committee chairs, and we have the opportunity to record your important concerns about walking, biking, and other popular sports, and how we're doing as a national organization. So again, this is a free conversation about what's going on. I don't see anybody from the national office on tonight, but we do have Jerry Wilson, who chairs our convention committee. And that's one of the things that are kind of important, and an awful lot of questions are coming down about how are we going to run this national conference when we've got the Texas Trail Roundup and we've got the Olympiad in February. Jerry, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and let's see you, please. And why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on in 2023 when it comes to this national conference and what we're up to? How's this all going to run?
All right. Well, hello to everyone. We're packing a lot in when we're in San Antonio in February. And between the two events, the IML and the Olympiad, I've been allotted 3 hours on Friday, February 24th. And I think I put out a save the date already in the checkpoint, but we can do that again. If you have been to other conventions, we typically have 2 half days, maybe a little more than 2 half days, where we present a lot of stuff the first day. We hand out materials, we get welcomed by wherever we are. And then the second day, and usually there's a day in between, so the things that you were presented that first time, you have time to think about, talk to your co-delegates, and make some more educated decisions on voting. And somebody's pointing at their phone. I don't know what that means. Make a more informed decision on who they're voting for. And typically we have 2 locations for the next biennial convention, which would be 2 years off from that. And so that gives you time to think about it. And then we usually come back Friday, vote on those things, among other things that day. This time's a little different. We're going to be hopefully in-person delegates meeting on Friday, February 24th, 1:30 to 4:30 Central Time. And we will do some of the stuff we normally do. I've run a draft agenda past our national chair and deputy chair, and very few changes were made. In dealing with calling all these presidents, I called them all presidents, and of course now with AVA, they're chairs now. So, part of what they'll do is introduce the presidents that are available in town from the IVV and what's the other one? I'm blanking. The IML, I guess, and let them say a few words to our delegates. But that leaves us, some time to hopefully have 2 proposals for the 2025 location and also for the nominating committee to present the slate of officers for the national offices. We're not going to get much more done than that, because again, you're talking 3 hours. So what the plan is, my understanding is, I thought it was June, but I think it's May now that Nancy, the chair, would like, we'll meet online, kind of like we did before, and we'd vote online for those officers. We'd vote online for those, for whatever we have for proposals for hosting the 2025 convention. And I can't remember what else we vote on. Maybe there's some bylaws stuff, I'm not sure. So we do that online, similar to what we did under COVID. And at that time, a lot of our normal reports that you would get in June at a June, July biennial convention would be available. Typically, you don't have time to get those reports, some of those reports, or maybe all those reports out by February. I mean, your fiscal year just closed December 31st. You might have some of the stuff put together, but it definitely hasn't been audited yet. So that stuff will have to be sent out before the May or June online session. And actually, that's going to save us a little money. We're not going to be printing all that material. So that's what the plan is right now. The 24th is pretty well locked in. I'm also a member of the Olympiad committee, and we're meeting in a week or two and seeing some of the venues, making sure, from my viewpoint, making sure the delegates room is big enough and ready to go. And we firm up more of these things that are going to happen on February 24th. And then also, I don't know the date of the session, and I know they work with Tim, I think, to set that up to do the voting. I can't remember how we did it, but I think it's going to be similar. So that's what I know about 2023.
We do have a question in the chat. Will the 3-hour February 24th meeting be available virtually and or recorded for those unable to attend in person?
It would make sense to do that, especially the recording part. I will have to check with national office and see what our capabilities are.
Okay.
But I'll write down that question.
That'd be great. I know that in 2021, I ran the session using the Zoom and the polling capability to do voting. And perhaps that's the kind of capability we'll be using in the May meeting as well, in order to vote, in order to do our things, that the business that we need to get done. So I assume that a polling voting capability will be possible at that time. And again, we have the ability to check credentials and give only those with the correct credentials the right to participate in the polls. So we have all of that capability available to us. And so I think that we'll do it. We'll look forward to hear what the days are, though, because you may know more than most, in fact, all of us probably on this call, literally, about exactly when that might take place. And
well,
so do you have any more ideas on when the second session will be?
Not for sure. It looks like my earlier notes we're targeting June, but no particular date. And then I'm pretty sure Nancy, our chair, wanted a May date. So it would mean getting a lot of that material out sooner than we normally do. But again, if we're not printing a lot of that, that's one of the things we'll avoid a delay in. But no, I don't know a date. I don't know a date.
All right. Well, you know, a lot of the details that we normally expect credentialing and all the processes that we normally use for our in-person meeting, none of that has been decided yet. So just be aware that we are still working, the national headquarters and the leadership of the whole organization is working on how the process is actually going to go down on this and what's going to actually be done. It'd be a great opportunity to meet in Texas if you're able to. Otherwise, we'll find ways to get that information out to all the clubs and to have them participate in the voting capability later on, late spring, early summer as well.
You mentioned the either recording or showing live the delegates meeting in February. I think at least the recording, if not both, is very important in this case, because if people don't make it to Texas and they're going to vote in May or June, they're going to have some of that information available.
Very good. I think we'll have the technology available to us in February, and I know that the national leadership will be meeting long before then with you to help iron out the details of that our national conference, as we will call it in 2023, however it evolves and whatever it becomes. But thank you again for all the work that you did and are doing now to keep us connected as part of the whole America's Walking Club. Jerry, thank you so very much, sir.
Looks like Dawn has a question.
Thank you. I did have a quick question. I know the information that's been sent out in the checkpoint talks about if somebody submits something the 60 days before the actual meeting in February, there is a possibility that something could be brought to the floor to vote on. For those of us who are working and would need to schedule things and get flights and all that kind of stuff, is there any indication that something might be coming for the February portion of the convention that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know if our our secretary knows more.
Secretary, you're on.
Nothing has been brought forward yet. The expectation is that if at all possible, we reserve voting for the meeting later in the year and use the February meeting for introducing subjects and having all the happy to glad meet you president's speeches.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because then the second question, if we were going to need to come to that meeting, since there's not like an a la carte menu at this point, would there be a fee for the meeting if you are the delegate for your club?
And that I don't know. That'll have to go through the national office and
Okay.
the Olympiad Committee.
I think that's probably why it's most important. If you only intend to come specifically for the 3 hours, that's where virtual really is to our benefit, to make sure that the technology is available to you, just like you are right now watching what's going on live. I think we owe it to you and to each and every one of the clubs to have virtual capability, unless you want to come and walk and enjoy all the Tex-Mex food and all the heartburn that's going to come from all of that. Then I would suggest that to our national leadership that a virtual capability to keep you informed, let you see the 3 hours in virtual capability. I think that's an important thing. I can't guarantee that. That's up to our national leadership. Jerry, what do you think, sir?
I can add to that, to the whole topic there, that I know in past conventions, if people wanted to come to the delegates meeting, but that was all, that they weren't signing up for the whole convention or maybe even the days, there was a separate fee.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was called, delegates fee or
Yeah, it was like $50.
Yeah, 50 or 70, I can't remember. Yeah.
Something, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, in the past, so I can't say if it's gonna be there or not. That's up to the board.
And is it something that could be kind of put before the board? Again, I appreciate Tim suggesting that the virtual aspect be there. But if for some reason something is brought to the floor that they don't push off until the May voting, would voting be able to be done virtually,
Ah,
just in case?
interesting. So it would be a combination of virtual and in person?
Yeah,
Ooh,
I just can't imagine that somebody putting a motion from the floor that isn't going to be pushed to the May, June timeframe for the final vote. I would be incredulous, but I'll turn it over to the national secretary for.
and I'm not trying to be an instigator here, but I can see it happening. It shouldn't happen, but if someone is trying to push something through that maybe everybody's not there, and I don't know what that might be, but it would be an opportunity to do that.
We just had a meeting of the executive committee and that sort of thing was discussed and I think what's going to have to come out is a formal declaration that the February meeting will not be for voting, but
Mhm.
that
would be appreciated.
but not voted on, because we can't credential people. We're not prepared to credential people at that point.
Right. Okay. And so you're not credentialing anyone on site in February?
Right now, we do not expect that is going to happen. However, the next board meeting is November 9th, I think.
Yes.
And that will be on the agenda,
Okay.
or at least in the follow-up. We're going to have to discuss that and get that nailed down.
And that'll go out in the next checkpoint, I assume, so that we're all aware of it, what happens.
Probably by the December checkpoint, because we have to have the board meeting in the meantime.
November, yeah, okay.
Sure,
I appreciate that.
sounds like a topic for our November webinar. You'll be able to know more. We'll make sure that the right people are on the webinar on November to explain what's going on. And I
I appreciate
apologize, my
that.
house panther is here dominating my,
He's shredding me.
yes.
Thank you,
Anyway.
though, for the information.
Well, that's a critical question.
Yes, it is.
And here we are literally months away and we don't have the answers yet. And that's the state of where we are. Thank you for your comments on my sweet kitty here. His claws would not be in my sweet category, but that's okay. That's why I wear the shirts that I do. They look pretty shredded. Anyway, so great questions, and you see the state of where we are, and that's why we do these webinars, is to keep what's going on transparent to you. So the national leadership is still trying to grapple with how we're going to deal with a two-part national conference. And Jerry, again, thank you. Any last comments or any other thoughts you might want to contribute right now, sir?
No, I think, there's still some things to be decided, but we're getting a framework that I think we can work with.
Well, again, thank you so very much for being with us and taking the time to share where we are right now as the AVA nation going forward here. So everybody, please stand by, and we'll have more information if by the next November webinar. We'll probably move that up to avoid the Thanksgiving week as we approach the holiday, but it'll definitely be after the next leadership meeting of the board for our America's Walking Club, and hopefully we'll have more information decided at that point. So some great things coming down. Looking forward to seeing everybody. In terms of what's going on in February, I don't see anybody who unless somebody else has appeared that I don't see. We don't have a member. Jerry, unless you can comment about any other things going on in February with the Texas Trail Roundup and or the Olympiad. I know you're part of the committee, but in a different way.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's anything I can add right now. Like I said, I'm leaving for Texas. Must be Sunday. And so the following weekend, the committee's meeting, and we'll know more after that. Part of it is to see some of the venues. At least from my viewpoint, I want to see where the delegates might be meeting and, make sure it's adequate and whatever. And then, of course, there's so many venues that they've been working on, and some accepted, some not. So that'll be part of it. And then meeting with the members of the city council that Friday, whatever that Friday is, must be the 28th. So we'll know more after that weekend, but I don't know that I could share much more. And I'm not one of the committee chairs for the Olympiad committee. That's Susan and John. So,
Well, again, thank you so much for the work and the volunteer work that you're doing on behalf of all of us is in your scope. And we really appreciate the time that you have put forward, not only for this upcoming meeting, but in meetings past. Thank you so much, sir.
sure.
Volunteers are what make this whole thing happen. And we're all volunteers on this call, and thank you so very much for being here. Our next topic, I wanted to share a little bit about pole walking. Part of what we do is to help us understand better ways to walk and to help learn. If I might ask, is there anybody here who actually uses poles when they walk? Anybody do pole walking? All right. Excuse me for popping out of the way. These are walking poles. Oh, very good. We have somebody who does.
Well, I was
Wanna
gonna
share-
say, mostly when I'm on trails, not on sidewalk, like if I'm on a dirt trail, that kind of stuff, I tend to use them more frequently. My brother and sister-in-law use them no matter where we walk.
Uh-huh. So why do you use poles?
Stability,
That's a good
honestly,
thing.
going up and down. When I go up, it gives me some push to keep moving up hills. When I'm going down, it kind of slows me down from moving downhill very quickly. So it's just a stability thing for me.
Well, I think that's a really, really critical reason. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Your mic's not on.
Mute your mic. Unmute your mic there.
I just started using my poles probably about a month and a half ago. And for me, they help keep me upright, keep me straight, helps my back because I have a lower back issue. But I mean, I think they're great. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that as well. The poles that I'm carrying, and there will be a commercial message because these poles are actually donated by REI. Some of you may have seen that the Virginia Volk Sport Association got REI to actually donate quite a number of sets of poles, and we're using them at many of our major venues. Each walking club in Virginia gets to use one as a giveaway for one of their signature walks during the next 12 months. We just had the U.S. Freedom Walk Festival, which is the oldest, and we just had our 21st anniversary event. It is the oldest international walking festival in the Western Hemisphere, which is kind of a unique thing to be able to say. And we gave away a set of these REI poles, and all these poles come with. I'm going to put down this cat because he is really, really, truly interfering with my presentation here. But you'll see these are hard steel tips at the end of this, and these are very high quality. They are carbon fiber poles, meaning that they're extremely lightweight. We were very, 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 very fortunate that REI, as a sports store, thought we were worth having all these sets of walking poles. And with them, they also donated the rubber tips that come to cover up these metal tips. You want the metal tips on soft surfaces, but certainly you want the rubber tips when you're walking on city sidewalks and street corners as well. And they donated multiple sets of these poles and rubber tips. So with that in mind, my wife and I, we both are now using walking poles, and I'd like to share a video for the next. It's a 6-minute long video on the benefits, and every video I've tried to find the very best video that I thought would help us understand why pole trekking is perhaps an option for us, whether we're walking in a mountainous alpine situation or actually walking on a city street. And every one of them has somebody speaking with a foreign accent. So it's slightly foreign accent. This is an Australian accent, so get your best Australian accent out. But I'd like to share this 6-minute video with you about the benefits of walking and how to walk with walking poles. And if you see this as a benefit to share with your members, let's go from there. So I'm going to share the sound and optimize for a video clip, share.
If you're heading off on a trek, you might be wondering to yourself, should I get a pair of trekking poles? I'm going to go over today why I use them and give you a few tips and techniques that will help you be much more efficient when you're actually using your poles. Firstly, the reason why I use them for the short-term and long-term benefits. Short-term, I can trek much more efficiently. I find that I am able to trek a lot easier when I've got the poles and I'm not wasting as much energy. It's also a lot softer on the knees and the joints. And you can distribute the weight of your body and the weight of your backpack into the ground via 4 points instead of 2. The long-term benefits, I want to be able to do this kind of walking when I'm 60 and 70. So it's really about long-term joint health. Now you can get a pair of poles and you might use them, but they might not make any difference. And that's probably what's happened to a lot of people that have bought poles, used them and thought, oh, this is useless, and sort of given them away and not used them again. And that's probably because they're using them in a way that's not very efficient. So I'm going to show you the way that I use them, and you can try that and see if that works for you as well. Firstly, with your pole, you want to get them set up correctly. So most of the time, you want to have a 90-degree angle with your elbow. So when the pole's placed on the ground, if you're on mainly flat ground, you want about a 90-degree angle here in your elbow. If you know that you're going uphill all day, that angle is going to be the pole's going to be a little bit shorter because there's less distance to the ground. If you know you're going downhill all day, it'll be a little bit longer because there's longer distance to the ground. Now, the first thing you want to do when you actually start trekking is take the cap off the pole. You see a lot of people trekking with the rubber caps on. This is a carbide tip at the bottom, which is really good for getting grip on rock and dirt and mud and all sorts of stuff, snow. Also with the handle, you want to hold the handle correctly, just like a ski pole. When you drop the pole, it should drop straight below your wrist like this. And the way we do that is coming up underneath the handle, over the top, and then grasping the handle. So you can see there that my thumb is going over the top of the strap there. Might feel awkward or uncomfortable at first. The benefits of that is that you don't have to have a death grip on the pole the whole time. You can control the pole just by the strap in your hand. So you don't have to be gripping the pole the whole time. Also, the reason why we wouldn't come in this direction, which is what a lot of people do, is because you can actually dislocate or break your thumb fairly easily if you take a fall. So if you were to trip over on trail and you fall down and you put your hand down to the ground to stop your fall, you can quite easily dislocate your thumb or break it. So we always want to come up and over the top and grasping the pole. Okay, now how do we actually use them when we're on trail? So I'm going to walk up this steep section here, and I'm going to show you the posture and the method that I use when trekking. So you want to trek asymmetrically, so left foot up, right hand up. That's the way your body will naturally move. I've got my poles a little shorter because it's quite steep ground. So that's the way you go up steep ground, making sure that you're not going up left side and right side at the same time. It just feels super awkward. When you're on flat ground, the poles are going to give you forward propulsion. So you want to use the poles at about a 70-degree angle. And again, you're placing the poles asymmetrically. As you bring your left foot forward, your right hand will come forward. So the difference between that and placing the poles on the ground straight in front of you, out like this, is that you're not getting any kind of forward propulsion this way. So the poles need to be placing it around where your foot is in order for you to get a little bit of forward propulsion. Now it's not much, but if you multiply that over a long day's trekking, like 6 to 8 hours of trekking, it can make a real difference. Also, on the way downhill, you are taking off a fairly significant amount of weight, of your own body weight and your pack weight, off your legs and into your hands. So we go hands over the top of the poles when we're coming down. Not only is that giving you better stability, but it's also taking off what is potentially quite a heavy load off your system, off your body. We want to go nice and wide with the poles as you go down for better stability. So there's a few tips that you can use with your trekking poles to make you more efficient in your walking and also to keep you safer on trail. If you need more tips or anything to do with trekking and training for trekking, head over to www.bigmountaintraining.com.
So that was one of the videos that I found that I thought was useful. All right, just a minute. Enough of that. So there are lots of videos online about how to use the poles, but the most important thing is to use them actually takes weight off of your joints, and it's really for joint health that most people use them. Even Volksmarchers should probably start thinking about them as a way to reduce the amount of joint stress that we have. And we are beating our joints up all the time if we're walking a lot, especially if we're walking on concrete or asphalt or sidewalk or some other harder surface. And so that's the purpose of the poles, and a great opportunity for us to keep us walking longer. And part of why we exist is to help promote what we do. What do we look for when we're buying for poles the first time? There are two different kinds of poles. I have a set of aluminum poles, and they're called beginners poles. And actually, for you and I as Volksmarchers, beginners poles, the aluminum poles are okay, and I like mine because I'm only walking 2 or 3 hours at a time for a 10K perhaps. But there are, if you're really concerned about the amount of stress on your body, these are carbon, much lighter than my aluminum poles. And carbon poles, by being light, that means you're manipulating less weight. And so that's something worth looking at. Aluminum poles are much less expensive. I think I paid for my REI aluminum poles about $50. These high-end carbon poles are about $150, but as I said, they are much, much lighter in weight and even less stress. Now, one of the advantages for aluminum is that they are stronger. If I stumble and I happen to put, they're not intended as medical devices. They're not going to hold me up if I fall. Yes, they're exactly like using poles for cross-country skiing. These are designed for just adding a third and fourth weight point on your journey. Carbon poles are a little less, they have a little less strength, but as I said, the much better benefit for them being much lighter. Handles. Look for the handle that feels most comfortable to you, because these are going to be in your hands for 2 hours. I have foam rubber, less expensive, but these, the really high ends, like my wife's carbon poles, have cork. And cork actually, as a handle, if you perspire, the cork kind of allows the moisture to wick away a lot better than having rubber or foam on the handles. So look for a handle that's very comfortable for you. If you go into a store like REI, I'm sure they will let you take out a pole and try it out. It's really, really important that you that they feel comfortable for you. Make sure you have the correct length that can produce a 90-degree angle and one of the ways to do that is to extend the pole and hold the end, and if the tip, and if your arm elbow is a 90-degree angle, that is the correct extension. Some of them are like this, telescopic. Some of them are what they call Z poles, which have a cord going through them and are in 3 sections, and they our original trekking Volkstaff poles were these aluminum, aircraft grade aluminum poles that you can just flick out, and there's a bungee cord in the middle of it, and it all just kind of comes together in a rather cool fashion, and it looks like a lightsaber extending, something like that. But the idea is to make sure you have the correct length. There are 2 different ways of telescoping. One has screw extensions, so by screwing this, it loosens or tightens the pole, and you can extend the length. In this case, these high-end poles have a clamp to it, and the clamp holds it shut, and you can actually turn the clamp like a screw, and that makes the clamp itself even tighter to make sure that you have the correct amount of tension and strength to hold your weight as you extend these particular poles. So the most important thing is cost. Therefore, aluminum versus graphic and comfort of the handle, I think, are the most important qualities that you should be looking for. You're going to hold these for hours on end. Make sure they feel very comfortable. So yes, they are exactly like the same thing like cross-country skiing. For those of you who are cross-country skiing, you already know the benefits of poles and how poles work and how they stabilize you. There is a basket. In this case, these poles come with what are called minimum baskets, which are very small things. And the idea is that it keeps these tips from getting caught into a rock. The basket will keep the pole from extending too far down into perhaps a little crack and getting caught. You can buy much bigger baskets and use them for snow, mud, or other soft surfaces to keep your pole from really sticking deep into the soft surface as well. But for you and I walking on sidewalks and asphalts, a basket isn't necessary. The rubber tip is more important because the clack, 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 clack of it's not only going to drive you nuts, I guarantee you it's going to drive your walking partner even nutser. So be careful about that. Make sure you have the rubber tips at the end, and that comes from personal experience, quite honestly. So, all right. So that's the benefits of pole walking, and if you have the opportunity to experience pole walking, let me know what you think. I know I'm kind of sold on it. It makes it a lot softer, and for my wife, she's using them as well, and it really is helping us in terms of joint walking us when we're trying to reduce the stress on our particular joints, and so that's why we're doing what we're doing. So we wanted to share that with you, and as I said, REI, again, that's the last time I'll mention the name of that company. So much for that commercial message. But again, they were very, very helpful for us in donating walking poles. Perhaps you might want to copy what we did here in the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Virginia Volkssport Association in terms of finding a sponsor who might be willing to donate a couple of pairs of walking poles to help you learn what that experience is all about. What other questions do you have about pole walking? Anything?
Tim?
Yes,
when-
ma'am.
When people are doing their research on poles, I do believe some companies might actually replace poles if they are damaged. I know my poles are black diamond poles. And I believe if I were to break one, or if the mechanism to extend them malfunctions at some point, that you can send them back and they do replace them, or attempt to fix them, one of the two. So
That's
people
great. I
can
know.
do some research online for what companies offer what kind of things.
That's great. I know REI. I don't know what REI's guarantee policy is, but I know my wife uses Lecky, which is another very high-end pole set of poles. And again, we find the Europeans are the ones who seem to really, really know more about this than we do. And we're just catching on here in our continent about how to best use these poles. So great point, though, to really look at what kind of benefits and what kind of guarantees there are that come. So a little bit of research really goes a long way in this process. So next to my tennis shoes, I think my walking poles or my hat. I would say my hat is number 2 after my tennis shoes, and then my walking poles are the most important walking equipment, other than a good bottle of water as well. Hydration is the key to clear thinking in my world. So, all right. So what? Any other questions, perhaps? Well, great. Thank you so much. In terms of our any other topics, we have 15 minutes left for our hour. I didn't quite know who was going to be able to join us from national headquarters. What topics would you like to cover in the future in these webinars? As we're approaching events in Texas, we'll certainly keep you informed and make that a really important priority. But what other topics about walking would you like to know about? We've tried to record these, keep them online, make them available. If you're not a social media person, which is how we share these videos, video links, I'll try to do that through the checkpoint as well. The last few sessions, we'll try to get you those YouTube links so you can go online and listen to some of the discussions we've had and topics we've talked about. Anybody have any suggestions? Here's some intelligence about special programs. We already know what the two new programs for 2023 are: Lighthouses and a program called Par for the Course, which is really outdoor recreation activities. 2024, we already have one program already set to go, and they are really ready to go. And this is going to take some research on your part to find this. How many of you know what a labyrinth is? The idea of walking it's not a maze, it is a spiritual journey in a circle. Sometimes churches use them. Sometimes we have community labyrinths in certain parks. The opportunity to go and walk these. In 2024, we've already established January of 2024, we'll be starting a labyrinth special program. So be looking for where are labyrinths along your walks. Look for churches, perhaps Google. There is an international or a national labyrinth society that we're going to try to partner with for this. And they do have a website of where labyrinths are located, and we'll try to make that available to you. But you have right now you have 14 months. We've never ever given you this much lead time on a special program before. But look for labyrinths in your area as a 2024 special program. This is going to be a lot of fun. You don't have to walk the labyrinth, although if I walk a labyrinth, I want credit for it, darn it. So we're going to make sure that you get credit for walking the labyrinth if you choose to do that. But it's really a very meditative and special spirit. It's meant to be a spiritual journey because you walk in and you walk out the same path. And you're supposed to do that in a reflective and contemplative process. So after a hard day on the trail or halfway through the trail, you encounter one of these labyrinths and you walk it. The idea is to soothe your soul and continue on your journey. So that is a bit of intelligence we've never talked about yet and released. So you know it first, and we'll get it out in the next checkpoint as well. So see the benefits of being part of these webinars. You get to know stuff nobody else in the whole organization gets to know. That's why we do what we do here. So what other topics should we cover in future webinars? I'd really be anxious to know what you think. Any thoughts? Well, I guess we've kind of come to the end of our topics then for tonight. Again, thank you so very much. Oh, please. Yes, sir.
This is Bob. This is
Yes,
Bob
sir.
from South Bend, Indiana. And how is the planning going for the 2023 National Walking Week?
Thank you. Good question for asking that. And 2023, as you know, National Walking Week is April 1st through the 7th. And that will be one of our topics in November and December as we get closer. I do want to kind of coach you on how to work with your local governments on how to have a declaration made in your city, your county, your state, how to have our government officials recognize this thing that we call National Walking Week, and to join with America's Walking Club those first 7 days. So we are going to really push that again. This will be our, let's see, we did it in 2020. This will be our third National Walking Week, and every year it gets bigger and better. And but it's only bigger and better because of the efforts that each and every one of you do at the club level. So I think that we're just going to try to emphasize working with your local governments to try to have government officials come out for whether it's a guided walk on one of your year-round events, or you choose to create your own special traditional event on that week, each club, it'll be up to each club, but the goal is to have our government officials come out and will actually walk with us. I'd love to have the governor of Virginia join us on the trail. We're going to shoot high here in Virginia. Don't know if it'll work or not, but we at least had interest last year. And with much of the COVID situation fading, hopefully, we're going to try that here. And perhaps you might be interested in having your mayor or your county officials walk with you. We've done both of those things. We've had the mayor of our local city with us, sitting at the checkpoint, or sitting at the start point, and we've had walked with the county member of the board of supervisors for our county walk with us, actually. So, and we would love to encourage each and every one of you to do that as well. Great question. Thank you for asking and really putting that forward. I think that's a really, really important thing for us to continue to talk about.
Hey, Bob, this is Soya. We love the Louisville walks.
Oh, thank you. I saw that you made a good week of all those events along the Ohio River.
We really, really enjoyed the rails to trail bridge there that crossed over between Kentucky and Indiana. It was really
Yes.
a special bridge there. Thank you so much.
Actually, both bridges, the one in Louisville and the one in Covington, Kentucky, are both listed on the Rails to Trails.
Right.
That's the Purple Bridge in Covington and the Big Four Bridge in Louisville.
Very good. So hopefully each and every one of you are enjoying special programs that are important to you and that you're enjoying. Would love to hear your stories about special programs, anything that you're enjoying more. What are you enjoying when it comes to special programs? Thoughts? Well,
Tim,
yes, sir.
Chris Mellon.
Yes, sir.
This time around, I'm chairman of elections. I sent you a message. Evidently, you don't have it. The message is, as needed, the webinars that you put forth with Cecilia, could we possibly, for some part of the time as needed, talk about the checkpoint? The checkpoint goes to a number of people, mostly the presidents and those very active in the clubs. My thought is, why not have, and I know there's between 15 and 30 people that attend the webinars, and they began with almost 90 a long time ago, but they could be boosted up by talking about the checkpoint. It doesn't have to be anything, it shouldn't be anything negative. I'd like to see positive vibrations from that, because that's where we get our information from, the headquarters. And unfortunately tonight, I do agree with Cecilia, the secretary, that, and I noticed it right away, that at least one person should have represented AVA headquarters so we could get input. I think it's very important.
Well, I think that that's very, very important. And I think that that's going to be something we're going to push. Make sure that somebody from headquarters is always on one of these calls, because you're right. This is our primary way of communicating. I think it's great that they're having the checkpoint information, and I'll make it a point to scour each and every checkpoint at the beginning of the month to make sure we use this as a way to also communicate that same information out as well. So we'll do the highlights of checkpoint as part of each and every webinar. How about that?
Great.
Great suggestion. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, with that in mind, then I think we've kind of come to the end of our hour. And thank you to each and every one of you for being part of America's Walking Club and participating. We look forward to having you share your stories with us on future webinars. If there's any great adventure you've taken, love to have a oral blog. How about that? Some great adventure you've taken walking, some great place, whether it's Louisville, Kentucky, or some other place you've walked that you thought was special. We'll try to have folks, somebody each and every webinar kind of give us a little, one of their fun adventures that they've had in the last few months that they'd really like to share. Some really great highlight of walking in the realm of America's Walking Club. We'll add that to our agenda as well. All right, so thank you to each and every one of you. We'll see you next month, and we will see you hopefully in February if you have the opportunity to do that. But again, thanks for being part of that, part of our webinar tonight.